Pokemon has always been a series about going on an adventure, discovering new locations, catching and raising Pokemon, and becoming the best there ever was. This is held true for every generation of games. The latest entries, Pokemon Sun and Moon, present you with a detailed and beautiful tropical setting to explore, brand new challenges to face, and plenty of new Pokemon to catch and care for. It's a fun, charming little adventure, but as much as I was enjoying my time with it, something felt missing. Its difficulty. Ever since X and Y, Pokemon has become ridiculously easy, perhaps from a desire for accessibility for new players. And while there's still plenty of things to love about these games, the lack of difficulty not only is off-putting for someone looking for more of a challenge, but it also diminishes the adventurous spirit that Pokemon is all about. One of the things that made X and Y so darn easy was the XP share, which had been changed to apply to the whole party so that everyone gets some experience from a battle. The result was that I never needed to grind and my Pokemon were over-leveled for pretty much every situation. Sun and Moon has actually attempted to course correct this by changing how much XP is gained based on the difference between the levels of you and your opponent, but it doesn't feel fully there yet. I still rarely enter a battle worried about the level of my Pokemon or if I was prepared for the fight. Aside from the lack of mental challenge, this created an effect where I suddenly had far less investment in my Pokemon, spending time in the tall grass grinding with a specific Pokemon so that it learns that one move I need helped form an attachment with it. But that no longer happens when I never need to spend any time grinding anymore. And because my whole party is getting XP from battles, there is no reason to switch them around as often, meaning I have a situation where I only really use 2 or 3 members of my party and the rest are faceless Pokemon that I have no attachment to and can be swapped out without a second thought. These games really like to put an emphasis on the friendships between you and your Pokemon, but they significantly reduce the need to interact with them directly. Another dynamic that has changed is your rival. A Pokemon staple, you are always given an opposing character who will counterpick whichever starter Pokemon you pick. So if you pick Charmander in Pokemon Red, your rival will pick Squirtle. Those moments where your rival would show up out of nowhere felt tense because they always had the advantage, and you had a stake in not wanting to lose to them because they were such a real jerk to you.
So long, losers!
But ever since Generation 3, your rival has been your character's friend, with a healthy competition towards each other. This removes a lot of the tension towards them, and gives me much less of a reason to care when they want to fight. This reaches its peak in Sun and Moon, where your rival actually picks the weaker Pokemon, so battles against them are a total breeze. I never felt any stress when he randomly showed up, and his attitude towards everything is so carefree that referring to him as a rival doesn't even make sense anymore. While the Pokemon themselves have always been the main focus, I think something often overlooked in these games are the environments themselves and the interesting challenges they can present. Because Pokemon centers were always located only in towns and cities, there was a real sense of danger and risk that came from leaving each town and exploring the many routes, forests, and caves throughout the world, unaware of how long it would be until the next time you could heal. In the newer games, there are so many Pokemon centers littered about and NPCs who will just straight up heal you, to the point where I never felt concerned about being low on health. As I was exploring a route in Sun and Moon, just when I thought to myself I should head back to town and heal before moving on, the NPC next to me graciously offered to heal my Pokemon whenever I wanted. Instead of that original Pokemon feeling of being a kid going on a dangerous but rewarding adventure where I have to prove myself, I'm instead on an easy journey where nothing could go wrong thanks to the many adults and safety nets nearby. And this feeling is cemented with Sun and Moon's removal of the dungeon-like caves. The caves in the older games always felt like huge milestones in your journey you had to conquer. They are multi-level labyrinths that were easy to get lost in and would feature puzzles such as blocks you had to push out of the way or through holes so they could drop to a different floor, and ice puzzles that you needed to find the correct path through. The caves always felt like the areas where the game wasn't afraid to beat on the player a bit. Like the infamous rock tunnel from Red and Blue where you had to stumble through blind unless your Pokemon knew Flash. With each cave, I'd find myself preparing by getting my Pokemon healed up, stocking on Pokeballs, potions, and good old escape ropes before diving in. Exploring every nook and cranny led to items and even rare Pokemon, and when you finally found the exit, you were rewarded with a huge sense of relief and satisfaction as you saw the next town and its Pokemon Center. Compare this to Sun and Moon, where the first cave I came across was a simple single-leveled environment with barely any side paths and no puzzles to speak of. And before I knew it, I had already found the exit. I'm surprised the game still has the escape rope as an item because the player is never in a situation that demands a quick getaway. perhaps the most insulting instance is when I had to travel to the top of a volcano for the next trial. So I go to the base of the mountain, go through some grass, fight a single trainer, and then I come across a cave entrance. But rather than leading to a cave proper, it instantly teleports me to the top where a person congratulates me on making it this high and then heals my Pokemon, in an interaction that I'm pretty sure is supposed to be genuine but came off as incredibly pandering. This was a prime opportunity to make me work for my trial with a memorable trek up this volcano, but instead it skips all that and rewards me like I accomplished some huge feat that I never actually felt like I did. And another example of this kind of more guided experience in the series is the recent treatment of the mascot legendary Pokemon, which are the ones on the boxes. With each generation, these legendaries have become more important to the game's overall narrative, which means you're not only guaranteed to come across them, but are required to catch them for the story to move forward. Ever since Black and White, they have jacked up the catch rate of the mascot legendaries, making them ridiculously easy to catch. Not that it matters if you do fail, because you are given as many chances as it takes until you catch them. Compare that to Pokemon Silver, where if I wanted to catch Lugia, I needed to make my way to the Whirlpool Islands, traverse a complex cave to find them, and then actually catch the darn thing, which could take dozens of attempts. I remember spending what felt like hours reloading my save whenever I ran out of Pokeballs or accidentally knocked them out. Which may sound terrible, but the satisfaction of hearing that click when I finally caught them was so rewarding, and that feeling just isn't possible when there are no stakes to it. The recent games like Sun and Moon still have legendaries and rare Pokemon that demand players devote time and energy to finding them, but these are all post-credit activities. And it's in some of these side activities where Pokemon retains some of its challenge. Things like the Battle Royale, which present a 4-way matchup where you need to think more carefully about what moves you use and who to attack. And those who choose to enter the realm of battles with real players will discover lots of hidden depth that the battle system still has to offer. And I think Sun and Moon is not quite the cakewalk that X and Y was. The Totem Pokemon battles, for example, can be tricky with beefed up stats and Pokemon allies that show up. But I still maintain the mainline experience that Pokemon presents is far too easy and lessens the overall memorability of your Pokemon journey. And at least to me, that's kind of the whole point of Pokemon. I don't need these games to be some hardcore, brutal experience, but I expect a rewarding journey that really makes me connect with my Pokemon and the world around me, but there needs to be more weight and challenge for that to happen. Otherwise, Victory Road doesn't really feel like much of a victory anymore.